Whispers in the dark, slowly drifting off. What are we doing here now? Analyze the silence between the words you speak.
We chatted with Audra House, a native of La Crosse, as well as a traditionally trained, award-winning soprano. Audra explores her beginnings, songwriting, acting, and her process when teaching students. She shares her new endeavors and what's next for her. You can find more conversations on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy, and he's Brent, and this is La Crosse Local.
My name is Audra House, and I was born and raised in the La Crosse area. I've been here my whole life, and I got into music at 7 years old. My parents put me into voice lessons, and I just never stopped singing. I always loved it. I decided that's what I wanted to go to school for, so I have a Bachelor of Music in Vocal Performance from Viterbo University.
I've actually seen you perform in La Crosse Community Theater. I've heard you sing before. What are some of your musical influences? Because, I mean, traditionally you're a soprano, right?
Yes, so I am classically trained, so I feel like I have to sort of split it into two different categories. So if we're looking at Audra, the opera singer, I look up to some of the great opera singers like Beverly Sills, Joan Sutherland, Cecilia Bartoli. Their voices are just phenomenal, and you can really look to them to say, wow, that is someone who has honed their craft. On the more contemporary side, pop music, singer-songwriter, without trying to sound too cliche, I do love Taylor Swift. She has a way of bringing you into her story through her lyrics and her songwriting style, and I think that's why people love her, and that's why people connect with her. I listen to a lot of different music, though, and I think it's good to cycle through different artists just to get new ideas. But lately, I've been listening to Phineas and Ash.
This is kind of a personal question come from mine. I had a brother who was actually in the La Crosse Boys Choir, so he was kind of traditionally trained and eventually went off to do more pop music, a little bit heavier. Was that difficult for you to make that transition since getting into it such a young age?
Yeah, I would say that it's a little bit challenging to switch from classical over into a more contemporary style, but the benefit of learning a classical technique is that you will always know when your voice feels really healthy. So if you're doing something that doesn't feel quite right, you notice, this probably isn't going to be good for my voice long term. Who can I reach out to that actually understands this style, that can teach me how to finesse it? But the classical technique will always ground you and keep you singing healthy for your entire life.
You offer teaching classes. What's your process, when you're teaching? I know a lot of people go, I can't sing.
A lot of people do say that they can't sing. I think that singing is a right that we all have. If you love to sing, you should sing. I think that almost anyone can improve their singing abilities if they put some effort into it. I like to teach from a standpoint of a judgment-free zone that's really welcoming environment, because singing is actually really vulnerable because it's a part of who you are and it's inside you. So I like my students to feel, number one, really comfortable. I really focus on technique, making sure that they're singing healthy, but I also focus on my students from an emotional standpoint as well, making sure that they're feeling confident, or that if I notice they're struggling with some things, helping them feel like, no, I can do this. Let's focus on the positive, not the negative.
As a singer and a songwriter, can you tell me about your sort of songwriting style, what that process is like?
Getting into songwriting has been a bit of a new adventure for me in this past year. I always wanted to do it as a child, and I just sort of let that go as I got older. I think I truly thought it wasn't possible. But as I've grown this past couple years, I decided, I can really do anything I set my mind to. If it's in my heart as a desire, I know that it's something I can do. So I would say my songwriting process is pretty fluid at this point. I'm still learning and growing, but the way I write is very simple, stripped down, very simple chords, and I really want the message of my lyrics to come through, and I really like a simple style.
So as someone with your past taught, and I would think in the correct manner of learning how to sing, Do you think that affects you moving towards more of this maybe pop music or just sort of traditional music? Does that benefit you, or does sometimes that maybe potentially having too much, experience or overthinking harm the process?
I think that overthinking is a huge part of it. I've always been a very technical singer. I've focused on technique most of my life. So now that I'm becoming a more advanced singer, I've really had to go back and learn some of the emotional side of singing and that musicality. And so what I've been working on recently is just emotionally getting into the music, figuring out how can I portray this or sing this in a way that really connects to the person who's listening to it. And I think it's easy as a young singer to just want to be the best and sound the best, but then you realize, oh, I might be leaving behind the part that actually connects to someone human to human, and that's that emotional component. So moving on to write some of my own music has really helped me dive into that more emotional side and make that connection.
What's next for you?
Lately, I've been thinking a lot about community. I think a lot of us have with everything that's been going on in the world and being a little bit disconnected. Each year, I have sung at a Christmas party with some of my friends from college, and it's a once a year thing that we do. And I always feel so connected to all of the people there when I only see them once a year. And I think that's the power of music, bringing people together, creating that space where it's something that we can share. And so through that thought process, I thought, how can I do this virtually in a way that people can start to connect to me all the time, and we can create this really beautiful musical community. So I recently launched a Patreon, which is a platform for independent artists to create a community, gain support, and it's a way that I can share all styles of music, classical music, musical theater, originals, and create a very positive community environment as well. So that's kind of my new project.
You just mentioned Patreon. Where can people find out more about you? Is that really where they should go to be kind of following the work and the process, or do you have other online venues?
I have a few different places. So if you want to be part of the Patreon community, you can go to patreon.com/Audra House. I do have a website, which is audrahouse.com. If you're looking to follow me on social media, I'm pretty much on Instagram. I do have a Facebook, but I'm not very active on there. So if you're looking to engage with me on socials, Instagram is where I am, and that's Audra Rose House.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you would like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Locals. Subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We thank you for it.